Trump thinks of the European Union as a clear and present danger to the United States, rightly or wrongly. I'm not going to comment on this. And he has an agenda, and the agenda is through tariffs and through other aggressive actions, essentially to make Brexit spread all over the European continent.
Is the defeat of the Democrats in the US presidential election just another example of the left losing power around the world? Well, I'm joined by the economist, academic, and formerly Greece's finance minister, Yanis Varoufakis. Yanis, hello.
Hello, Hugo.
Thanks very much for being with us. Does the result in the United States make you wonder if there is a future for the left in global government as anything more than a protest party anywhere?
What happened in the United States is quite similar to what has happened across Europe. The center-left party, the main center-left party, abandoned the working class, and then the working class abandoned the center-left party. So as long as center-left parties abandon the people that they are supposed to be representing, there is no future for them. But is there room and a function for the left? Absolutely, as long as there is capitalism, as long as there is majestic, magnificent, bone-crushing and mind-numbing concentration of wealth in the hands of the very, very few, the left will always be relevant. Whether the left will manage to get its act together, that's another matter altogether, isn't it?
Well, I mean, so in fighting Kamala Harris, Donald Trump painted her as a far-left radical, a communist, left-wing in every possible way. Are you saying that had she been further left, more true to the left, she wouldn't have had that problem?
I have no doubt that if Bernie Sanders had run against Donald Trump in 2016, or even a younger version of Bernie Sanders running against him this time around, the result would have been very different. Absolutely. Look, the Democrats didn't lose because of Donald Trump's narrative. It lost because it told the 60% of Americans who live paycheck to paycheck, it told them that they were wrong to feel aggrieved by their economic circumstances, that they should celebrate the great economic miracle that Joe Biden visited upon them. These people are struggling, and you have this establishment party, pontificating and saying to them, you should be celebrating with us the incredible wealth that we've created for ourselves. Donald Trump didn't need to say anything. Even if he went away on holidays, he would have won.
Once the left has sympathized with people for their situation, what then? What promises do they then make? I mean, Donald Trump, aside from sympathizing, also made some quite grandiose promises about what to do, about bringing back jobs, about scrapping income tax and replacing it with tariffs, a bunch of promises that one might regard as unrealistic, but at least he had some. What promises can the left make?
Well, I think that Bernie Sanders has demonstrated very well in the American context that you can be on the left and resonate with the vast majority of Americans. I mean, the points he was making about healthcare, the points he was making about student debt, the points he was making about the tax system, which is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous in the United States. However, think about Donald Trump, or allow me to propose that we think about Donald Trump as the result of President Barack Obama. Obama won, let us not forget, a landslide victory in the midst of the great financial disaster. And his narrative was, yes, we can. Yes, we can do what? We can look after the victims of the financiers, and we put the financiers, their genie back into the bottle. And what does he do? He appoints Larry Summers and Tim Geithner, the very same men who, under Clinton, unleashed the financial genie from the bottle and allowed it to commit effectively crimes against the majority of Americans and the rest of the world. And he bailed them out while practicing austerity on the many. I have no doubt that Trump is a direct repercussion of Obama's betrayal of the people that voted for him across the great land that is the United States.
Bearing all this in mind, is it perhaps time that we stop talking about dividing up politics between left and right and think of it more in terms of, populist and mainstream, or insurgent versus establishment, or something like that?
Labels are labels. What matters is substance. Allow me to make the point that the dream of social democracy received a major blow with financialization, because Hugo, once upon a time, when you had genuine social democrats like Willy Brandt even LBJ, Lyndon Johnson, with the Great Society Project, like Harold Wilson in Britain. It was possible to imagine that a social democratic center-left government sits around one table, the captains of industry on the one hand and the representatives of the workers on the other, and cuts a deal between them. But once power and the power to extract wealth shifted from industry to finance, and now it has shifted to big tech. Even if you really want to do that, to put around the table the different representatives of the different vested interests, there's no way you can do it. What do? You put Jeff Bezos on one side and what? The precariously employed men and women in the Amazon warehouses on the other. It is not possible to do that. So that and this is self-critical because I consider to be a left-wing politician, we have to seriously address the question of what do you tell people? And for me, there's no way of beating about the bush anymore. We have to talk about definancialization and about the old left-wing idea that when you have such concentration of capital in the hands of a very, very few, you end up not only with inequality, but also with inefficiency. You end up with a situation where three large companies control 90% of the companies at the New York Stock Exchange, which is not even capital. But we need to be able to speak that language. And the problem with Kamala Harris, with Keir Starmer, I would even add, in the context of your country, across Europe, with the socialists in France and so on, they are just too scared to talk the talk that a left-winger should do. Donald Trump, a misogynist, racist, poor excuse for human nature, nevertheless, has a very important lesson to teach us leftists, that we should not be scared to say it as we feel it. He does.
Isn't the reason why they're scared is because they fear that that kind of policies along those lines, definancialization, as you call it, would in the short term make people poorer, make their lives worse, would lead to market collapse, would lead to the collapse of economies generally. People would not benefit from this, and they are frightened to say to their populations, "You need to go through fire to get out the other side."
Not at all, because the strength of finance is inversely related to the well-being of the many. What they do fear, Hugo, allow me to be blunt, is the fact that most of their campaigns are being funded by the financiers. The center left has been over the last 30 years co-opted by the financiers. Look at Mr. Schroeder in Germany, who made this major change in the SPD and effectively destroyed the SPD. Look at the socialists under Mitterrand and even today in France. Look at the Labour Party. The Labour Party is absolutely in awe of the City of London. The City of London, in my estimation, has always been an impediment to serious investment in the things that Britain no longer produces and that it should be producing.
Okay. You have said that Trump's victory could be an opportunity for Europe. What did you mean by that?
Trump thinks of the European Union as a clear and present danger to the United States. Rightly or wrongly, I'm not going to comment on this. And he has an agenda, and the agenda is through tariffs and through other aggressive actions, essentially to make Brexit spread all over the European continent. Again, I'm not passing judgment, I'm simply stating it. And you have, on the other hand, a European Union political leadership which is utterly fragmented. We know what needs to be done. Mario Draghi and I, you cannot call us political allies, but we for 10 years now, we've both been saying one thing. We need 5% of European income to be invested in green tech, right? And it's not happening. Everybody knows what needs to be done, and nobody's even discussing ways of doing it. So this is an opportunity, right? If Europe is facing a clear and present threat from Donald Trump, unite and either disband the euro and disband the European Union, or bring about a political federation. There is no third way. The third way, which they are pushing for, they are following, is essentially a long-term decline of Europe into absolute irrelevance and poverty.
But do you think people would vote for one of these two things? Vote to either disband the European Union or combine it into a federal entity? I mean, because I'm not sure they would.
I don't know, to tell you the truth. What I do know is that politicians are only useful if they are conviction politicians. If you keep following what we feel that the population may vote for and what they want to vote for tells us, then we are a threat to our societies. If we believe X, we should say X. We should coalesce. Trump, like Mussolini in the 1920s, like Hitler later, madmen in authority. And as I said, real dangers for society and humanity. They actually spoke their minds. We should speak our minds in order to counter them. Kamala Harris never spoke her mind, not for 1 second, and the result is the indignity in which she wallows.
One of the issues that unites left-wing parties across Europe, and I mean often across America as well, or at least left-wing activists across America at the moment, is Israel-Palestine, obviously, and the war in Gaza and the war in Lebanon. One lesson of the election in the United States seemed to be that voters have very little patience for hearing about that as well. Is there a problem that the left has that it focuses too much on foreign policy and domestic audiences sometimes just don't want to hear it?
I don't think so at all. If anything, Kamala Harris, by not speaking her mind on Palestine, on the genocide which is happening, effectively lost a very significant part of support from those who voted Biden in. The youth, the more radically minded democratic socialists of America, as they call themselves, they simply didn't vote for her this time around, and she lost a large chunk of even apolitical voters who didn't appreciate the wishy-washiness of Kamala Harris on this matter.
Okay, but how does that map into what the advice has to be for left-wing parties across Europe, in America, across the world, if they wish to win back power from what looks like, sort of resurgent right almost everywhere? Can they keep on talking about things like Palestine? Can they keep on talking about things like identity politics, like transgender politics, all forms of social politics, basically, when voters are much more concerned about economic matters and are sort of crying out for clarity on that? And something that the right does very well is shooting down all those forms of identity politics, left-wing social politics, and simply focusing on economics. Does the left need to sort of abandon that whole sort of political activism?
There is no trade-off here. When people are being massacred in Rwanda, in Sarajevo, in Gaza, we all, left, right, center, we have a duty to speak out about this. And it's not, either we talk about this or we talk about economic exploitation and the fact that, most of America today is a desolate country. If you travel from East Coast to West Coast, you go from one once proud city to another town, which is struggling to survive. Why do we have to choose between talking about this devastation and not leaving it to Donald Trump to talk about the carnage? Because, we know that he's going to betray those people. We, the leftists, know that he is much more interested in the wealth extraction, I should say, of rentiers, real estate moguls like himself and financiers than he's interested in the people that actually voted for him. So we of the left, we need to look, I think that Bernie Sanders in 2016 ran a fantastic campaign. And if he had not been so effectively prevented by the DNC, he would have given Donald Trump a run for his money in a way that a Hillary Clinton or a Kamala Harris never could.
No. Okay. Yanis Varoufakis, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Hugo.